will be your moderator and timekeeper and whatever referee. I doubt it. I think I'm basically here to facilitate the discussion among these three great candidates for office. Three women running, I think, for the first time for three very important constitutional offices in Seminole County, and that's impressive. Let me briefly introduce them, and I'll let them introduce themselves. First of all, we have Kristina Renteria, who is a CPA, and she is a candidate for the Clerk of Court and Comptroller's position in Seminole County. And then we have Deborah Poulalion, who is running for Supervisor of Elections. And finally, we have Lynn Moira Dictor, who is running for Tax Collector, Seminole County. So welcome to all of you, and welcome to those of you who are watching us on Facebook. We hope you have a good time and are able to engage in the conversation. You can post your comments and questions there, and they will feed them to me, and I can then pass them on to the individual candidates. So we're going to try to divide the time up as best we can, but this is very informal. We're basically here to try to inform you and give you as much information about these three candidates as we can. All of them are Democrats running in Seminole County, which, as a longtime resident of Seminole County, I realize is something of a revolution that's taking place in the county in terms of the demographic, which is great to see. I used to joke with John Morgan, who's the well-known attorney. I'm sure you've seen his ads on TV many, many times. I see his ads in New England up here where I am currently. And I used to joke with him when I lived in Castleberry and then later Oviedo, and he was a Seminole County resident. I used to say that we were the only two Democrats in Seminole County, but that's no longer the case by a long shot, and that's great.
Nope.
Great.
Nope.
So without further ado, why don't we begin with Kristina Renteria, CPA, running for Clerk of Court Comptroller. Kristina, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and we'll go from there.
Yes, I'm Kristina Renteria, and I'm running for Seminole County Clerk and Comptroller. I've been in Florida 35 years, originally from Spain. I graduated from Florida International University. I am a CPA. I've been a CPA for 25 years. I'm a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. I'm also a small business owner. I'm a mom to a UCF student. Go Knights. And I also have 3 granddogs, and you know, that's about it. I'll pass it on to the next candidate.
Okay, Deborah. Deborah Poulalion, running for Supervisor of Elections. Tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been in Seminole County.
Thank you. Well, starting with how long I've been in Seminole County, almost 30 years, and I've been in Florida basically all of my life. I grew up in Fort Myers. I have 2 sons, raised them here. They went to Lyman High School. They both went to the University of Florida. I went to the University of Florida, and I have a master's degree in mass communication. And right now, my full-time job is at the Institute of Internal Auditors, and I'm a data analyst. And I specialize in survey data. And so when you think about elections and you think about surveys, they are very similar. You're asking people to make a choice, and then you count those choices and you report them out. That's what I specialize in right now in the business world, and I would be honored to do that as Supervisor of Elections. I also have taught at Seminole State College and Valencia, and I have earned my internal audit practitioner designation recently. So internal auditing is very process focused. And again, a Supervisor of Elections needs to be very process focused. So I have been looking forward to this evening because I love the fact that the 3 of us are running for the constitutional offices of Seminole County. And we're going to show you how interesting they are. So I'm ready for the night.
Okay. Let's move on to Lynn Moira Dictor. Lynn, I've known you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And tell us about yourself.
I have been a Seminole County resident for more than 36 years. Both of my girls were born in Seminole County and came home from the very first day at the hospital to a house in Seminole County. I've lived in 3 different places in Seminole County, and this has been my home for decades. For the last 3 30 plus years, for 35 years. I was a news reporter, a news anchor, a talk show host, and pundit, if you will. And when that radio job where I could watch and observe the politics of this area, always a political animal, always very interested in the news. And when I would watch it from a bird's eye view, I always knew that when that chapter came to an end, and it did come to an end about 1.5 years ago, that I wanted to give back to Seminole County, leaving it better than I found it. And I decided how better to do that than to help the hardworking taxpayers, families, and small business owners in Seminole County, considering what has been going on in that tax collector's office for 3 decades, up until just 2 weeks ago. So it was something that was always my passion. I always knew that I would, if I listened to others, when others would leave their jobs and go on to something else from the news business, I would say to them, and they would ask me, what am I going to do, Lynn? And I would say, what have you always wanted to do inside? And for me, the answer was always, I wanted to run for something. And when that opportunity presented itself, I took it. And I know that in 110 days, the winds of change are coming, because they're on your screen right now. The winds of change are coming from a blood red county, as Steve mentioned before, hardly any Democrats. It was completely lopsided. And now it is within 1,000 registrations of Republicans and Democrats. And these 3 women that you see tonight, that I am so proud to share tonight's candidate forum with, we are going to make a significant change in Seminole County for the better come November 3rd.
Let me follow up, Lynn, just a little bit. How different, if at all, has actually running for public office been than what you imagined it to be?
Oh, there were some challenges, that is for sure. But I think that my career as a news person and a talk show person prepared me for that, because one of the things you're going to need is A, the gift of gab, which I have, and 2, you need a thick skin. So all of these things, when you hear something that is going on in politics and it's turned toward you, I have had a lifetime, a career of people saying things. And so I have had a tough skin. So all of that will serve me well as we march toward November. But it has been very different because of the time and the people who are willing to help me and our team. I have been so impressed with people who come out of the woodwork to support our, whatever it is that I ask for, the people deliver. And that has been a pleasant surprise. There have been challenges, as far as this race, and we can talk about that later, but I have been pleasantly surprised. Most of the challenges that I've run into have been really good ones. There haven't been any real negatives, at least not yet.
Deborah, let's start, let's pick up the questioning with the why. Why are you running for supervisor of elections? What's the attraction?
Well, I want to make sure that Seminole County has the best possible access to voting that we can provide. Any reasonable step that we can take to make voting easier for people in Seminole County, we need to do it. And so, the thing that pushed me over the edge was early voting at Seminole State College. It simply makes sense from operational reasons, for encouraging young people to start a lifetime of voting. It makes sense. And I realized as I started to promote that in the community that I could write newspaper articles, I could hold meetings, I could do anything I wanted to, but if the supervisor of elections did not want it to happen, it absolutely would not happen. And so I said, okay, I'm going to run for supervisor of elections. And here we are today.
Excellent. Kristina, let's talk about your passion and why are you running for clerk of court and controller?
Yeah, I think I started to look into it when I had a bad experience or negative experience with the county. And then, so it turns out to be for me is just that as a CPA, I just wanted to make sure that everybody's taxpayer funds are well spent. I also want to ensure that we provide equal access to the justice regarding regardless of income. And that will entail the creation of a self-help legal center because there is an increased need to guide people and educate people. I also think that that we need to provide if they are customer service at the clerk's office, focus on the taxpayer, and that will include, to translation of the clerk's website, to that nobody's alienated. So, yeah.
Moira, Lynn, I should say.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer?
I answer to anything, so it doesn't matter. If people know me as Moira, they can call me Moira. I know for all transparency's sake, I have known Steve for more than 35 years, and he knows me as Lynn. You can call me Lynn. It's all good.
You can call me Ray, and you can call me Jay.
Right, but it doesn't have to call me Johnson, whatever. Yeah, no, so you can call me Lynn. It's perfectly fine.
You alluded to it earlier, talking about how Seminole County has evolved over the years. And since both of us actually met, most of us on the screen here tonight have lived in Seminole County off and on for many years. How has it evolved in terms of, you said, going from a blood red county to really a lot more diverse?
It's even Steven now, and it's very impressive because of the hard work of the Seminole County Democratic Party. It was about 4 years ago that they doubled down and put their nose to the grindstone and started registering people to vote after the election in 2016. And their hard work now pays off because now there are people who are active and running for office in this county with the hopes of winning, because now it is an even playing field in essence, because there's a big pot of no party people, the NPAs, and everybody else is even money. So this is the year that, there it is. Deborah has charts. I love that. So she's going to show you a chart of how even Steven it really is. It's great news as a Democrat in Seminole County to run for office. We have watched it morph into a county that, like Orange County, which often was, when we first moved here, was not as blue as it is now. But it has morphed. Seminole County a little bit behind, but we're steamrolling toward November, because this is the year, I think, Steve, that women and the Democrats will finally take their place as the building blocks in Seminole County. The building blocks being those constitutional officers. And if we could put 3 out of the 5 constitutional officers in place in November, it would dramatically change the landscape of Seminole County for a long time to come.
Deborah, was that an inspiration for you as well to run in terms of the changing demographic of Seminole County?
Well, I helped on an earlier campaign, and people asked me if I think I could run if I didn't think I could win. And so the numbers tell us, honestly, I'm thrilled that we have the balance between the Republicans and the Democrats. So it is our no party affiliation folks. It's our younger people who decided they're tired of partisanship. And I'm not a fan of it either. So I'm running because I want to focus on serving the public. I don't want to play games. I don't want to do favors. I just want to make sure people can vote.
Well, I know that some people are concerned about the closed party elections, especially when it comes to primaries. So where do you stand on that?
So on our ballot in November, there will be an amendment that proposes open primaries in Florida at the state level, but not down at the county level. And I had to think about it a lot, because on the one hand, I understand how people affiliated with a party want to be able to choose their candidate from within the party. On the other hand, voter turnout for people who are not affiliated with as a Democrat or Republican is very low, because they don't get to participate as fully as the other people do in their primaries. So thinking about that, and thinking about the fact that if we have an open primary, candidates are going to have to appeal more broadly instead of to the polarizing sides of both parties. I would be pleased to see that pass. I would be pleased. I have no control over it. My job is only implementation, but I would be pleased.
Kristina, do you have a take on that particular issue? Open and closed party primaries?
Yeah, I really, the same thing. I think that everybody should be able to vote regardless of what their party is. I think that's So we have, we get to choose or to decide whether we should open or close the primary. I think is great. I think everybody should vote.
Sure, Lynn.
Steve,
Yeah.
there have been some shenanigans when it comes to this closed and open primary business in Seminole County, even as recently as this election cycle. It's happened before. The way I understand it, if there are only 2 Democrats running or 2 Republicans running for an office, then everybody gets to vote. So in an effort to shut the Democrats out, what has happened in the past and tried to happen this time is that somebody floats a write-in candidate, and as soon as there's somebody else in the soup, then the Republicans decide between their 2, and then there's a write-in candidate in November for the general. So the Democrats have been shut out so many times because of the Republicans floating a phantom candidate who has they do it, and they've done it as recently as this election to me, floating an NPA candidate. They have done it, and they continue to do it where, trying to decide, for example, they did it in the tax collector's race in 2016. It was Greenberg and Ray Valdez, and they floated a write-in candidate. So Democrats didn't really get to pick. When it came to Greenberg, won the primary, and then it was Greenberg and basically no one, a write-in candidate that nobody knew about. So you see, we were shut out because of this write-in. I really also am very concerned. I'm not even sure why this race is partisan, why the tax collector's office is a partisan race. It seems a little weird to me that this race is a partisan race. I don't know how Deborah feels about Supervisor of Elections having to declare a party, or, Kristina, when you're dealing with people's taxes. I think you should be as neutral as possible. Same thing with your vote, as neutral as possible. But in Seminole County, we have to declare our party. And I'm proud to do so, but it is weird that these particular constitutional officers, we must by law declare our party.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Well, I mean, I agree with her that all constitutional officers should be nonpartisan races. I totally agree with that.
How about you, Deborah? What do you think?
Well, I think I can have an opinion, but it is fairly irrelevant because, I can't make any changes on that behalf. But I, for my race, would greatly prefer not to have a partisan label. I think it would make the supervisors of elections able to have more trust from the public that they are being neutral and nonpartisan.
Very good. Well, let's talk about issues and priorities. And I'll start with Kristina this time. Kristina, what do you see as your #1 issue in your campaign?
Well, I think the #1 issue is to restore trust in local government. And the reason is because we had so many issues, not only with the tax collector, but also with the clerk's office. Where we had the commissioners having to sue the clerk, for misinvesting the taxpayer money. So I think a lot of people are losing trust in the government, and we have to restore that. And I think we are here to serve the people of Seminole County, and certainly, by choosing me, definitely I'm not gonna need to have the commissioner sue me to do my job. So I will just do my job with integrity, transparency, accountability, and service to the people of Seminole County.
Has that case been resolved, or is that still in the courts?
No, that was resolved. The clerk actually appealed because he was, he was told that he had to return the money that he had invested somewhere else, and the commissioners didn't agree. So, but anyway, the thing is that he appealed the decision and he lost. So it was 4 different judges that told him that he was wrong. And he is still not happy. So I mean, but pretty much what it is that he obviously doesn't understand his responsibility, and his responsibility is to make sure that the budget is is spent according to how it's been approved by the commissioners. So that's what I'm planning to do. I mean, I just want to make sure that the taxpayer money is well spent and spent, you know, according to how it has been approved. And, you know, if something it doesn't happen that way, you know, it's my job to call for an audit and to reverse and look into it farther.
Lynn, what would you say is your top priority or your number one issue going in?
Well, the tax collector's office needs a good dose of common sense. They need transparency, they need ethics, they need accessibility. And it is, the most important thing is to provide the most cost-efficient, accessible way to get customer service, to pay your taxes, your property taxes, to get your driver's license, to get a hunting and fishing license. They have to come to my offices, right? To one of 6 offices around the county. They, you know, this office has been rife with problems for 30 years. And it is time for, if nothing else, transparency, ethics, accessibility to all, and you know, a good heaping dose of common sense. And that's really where I'm focusing, because people are hungry for that. They are tired. They're working hard to pay their taxes. I do. I know that the good people of Seminole County do. And it's so frustrating to have watched that money get frittered away, that I think that has to be the number one priority. You know, you hear politicians say on day one, I'm going to do so-and-so. Well, I've got to look on day one at going through the budget. And I've been through 3 of the 4 budgets already. And there's so much waste and fat in the budget that I think I'm going to be, you know, focusing so much, at least at the beginning, on making sure that the cushy contracts and job offers and all of the personal contacts of Greenberg are out of there for good.
Yeah.
Deborah, what would you say is your number one priority when taking office?
I think the key words for me are maximum access to voting. And a lot of things roll up into that. And I noticed that someone had asked about commenting on the latest for Amendment 4, and that's a big part of that. So, you know, Amendment 4, Florida passed that at the end of 2018 to allow people with a felony in their past to vote as long as it wasn't murder or sexual felony offense. And immediately, you know, the legislature clawed that back by saying you had to pay your fees, fines, and restitution first. So we've gone back and forth in the courts. We had a wonderful ruling May 24th that allowed more access. And with that comes a need for great transparency and education. But it was going to make a path for people to vote. It was appealed, and those new rules have been put on hold. So I'm saying all that to say that the legal groups tried one more time to get the Supreme Court to lift, you know, the hold on these new rules, and we've been squashed again. However, August 18th, the 11th Circuit Court's going to talk about Amendment 4, and I'm believing for a good result. But here's where I'm coming back around to access to voting. You know, for the last 18 months, there was nothing on a Supervisor of Elections website in Seminole County about Amendment 4 voting rights. He was one of only 4 supervisors who was on the committee, and he had nothing on his website, not even a little bit. And a lot of times in Seminole County, I feel we get the minimum. We get just enough. It meets the requirements of the law. We don't go beyond what we've done before. And it's disappointing. We should have better service to our voters.
There was a little bit of news on that front today with the Supreme Court refusing to at least stop the stay, I guess. So,
right.
So it goes to the appellate court on the 18th, which is primary day, right?
Yes, ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, all these 1.4 million voters, again, I've got to wait out another election.
I was going to say, it looks like it's going to be a while before this is completely litigated. Do you think it'll end up before the Supreme Court again?
Yes, I think I hear people have that expectation, but it's possible that people may be able to vote depending on if the 11th Circuit, what they decide.
Okay. I have a question from the audience for Kristina. They want to know if you're the only CPA running for this position, and are there any kind of professional criteria for the clerk and controller's office?
Yeah, I am the only CPA running for this position. The current clerk is not a CPA.
Mhm.
And I do believe it should be minimum qualifications to be the controller for the county. And I'm sorry, so what was the other part of the question?
Well, they wanted to know what the criteria was, if CPA was a criteria, and apparently it's not.
Well, I mean, this is you know, you're going to be for this position. You're running the administration for the courthouse.
Right.
Plus, you're running the finance department for the county. So as far as running in that part, in the controller part of this position, yes, I mean, you really do need to be a CPA. There is no such thing as a requirement because it is an elective office, but it should be. I mean, there is other you know, other counties have CPAs in this role. Because it's definitely and the reason why some counties they are splitting the position is because they don't have a CPA doing the finance. So yeah, so it is important to me, even though I mean, there is no such thing as a requirement, but it does help to know you know, finance in order to be the controller for the counties. Even though it's not a requirement, it should be, I mean, it should be a minimum requirement.
Sure.
And yes, I am the only CPA running, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Moira, does the situation with Joel Greenberg and him now being out of the race, does that change your campaign strategy at all? I mean, I'm sure for a long time you thought he was going to be your opponent.
I did think he was going to be my opponent, and I was focused on no one but Greenberg for the last 10 months. The other two also ran. There were two other Republicans in the race, and I was just gunning for him and just keeping my nose clean, nose to the grindstone, working really hard. But I call the former incumbent Joel Greenberg the gift that keeps on giving, because every time you turn around, he is in the paper for some other shenanigans. And it's really hard. When I was getting petitions signed to get on the ballot, and I would say what I was running for, and they would say, you know, I would say I'm running for tax collector, and they would say, are you running against Greenberg? And I would say yes, and they would snatch that clipboard out of my hand because they didn't, you know, approve of all of the foolishness that was going on in the office. It continues to this day. When I'm raising money, when I'm talking to voters, when I'm doing whatever, I know that they are focused on it. It has changed my campaign. It has to, because he's no longer in it. But the update on the awful behavior, it's just that simple. It's almost like he's your child. This behavior, you shouldn't know your tax collector's name until you write that check in November. This tax collector job should be an administrator, it should be a manager, and it should be someone that is wallpaper. It should not be someone who is in the newspaper pulling people over, pretending to be law enforcement, or one of the many, you know, writing anti-Muslim stuff all over his social media page. You know, every time he does something like that, people look to me because, well, that's the office I'm running for, and I'm forced to address it. So I can't get out from under Greenberg quite yet. Even as recently as half an hour before we started this candidate forum, he did it again. So I'm going to have to address it. I can't really get away from him so far in the campaign, but I'm trying to, and focus on what I'm going to do for the office instead of the awful things that Greenberg has done.
What's your knowledge, or what do you know about the other two candidates who are still in the race on the Republican side?
One of them was the victim of Greenberg shenanigans, the
Right.
teacher at Trinity,
Right.
and the other one is a realtor, broker. That's what I know. They seem, they're fine. Yeah, they're fine. You know, it's like, you know, I can't worry about anybody else, but I can only run my campaign. I've had really smart people tell me that. Just run your race. Stop worrying about everybody else. Run your race, blinders on, just raise enough money to mount a vigorous campaign and get through to November. Luckily, I don't have a primary, so it's just, we are on to November. Whatever happens next, in a couple of weeks in August, it will, it'll be whoever it is. I can't worry about that. I've just got to worry about getting my name out there and getting some recognition and getting the office soon in November.
Now, these offices interact to a degree, do they not? And maybe I'll start with Kristina on this particular question. For instance, driver's licensing and voter registration and things like that. How do they all work together, and how would you guys all work together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start, for the sheriff's office, for example, there's got to be more faster communication between the police department and the courthouse. When it comes to the property appraiser, they are denied a homestead exemption. They come to the clerk's office as well. When it comes to the supervisor of elections, we have to deal with Amendment 4 rights, which they have to find out whether they owe any fees, any fines. So they will get that information from the clerk's office in order to be, to know whether they are eligible to vote or not. And when it comes to the tax collector,
Tax collator.
Yeah.
sorry. When it comes to the tax collector, I think I agree with you that we should be able to share resources. There is no reason for somebody to just go to the tax collector to get a card tag, but then to pay a traffic ticket, they have to go to the clerk's office. It's just kind of, there is no reason why there should be 2 different locations. So, I mean, I think we could save a lot of our taxpayer money by sharing resources, especially, with the tax collector's office. Yes.
Deborah, you had some questions about this as well that you sent to me. I guess there were concerns about ID when you go from basically, becoming getting your voter registration card and then coming from the tax collector's office where you've got your driver's license. What were some of your concerns about that?
Well, so when you get your driver's license, they're required to offer you the opportunity to register to vote. But part of that process can not properly function. So a person says, yes, I want to register to vote, but it doesn't go correctly through the system and they're never registered to vote. And so, I've heard people say, oh, well, that's the voter's responsibility to make sure that voter registration went through. And I think that's pretty ironic because, if you're a volunteer and you're collecting voter registration and you take one from somebody and you don't turn it in, you are in big trouble and you can get a fine up to $500 for that kind of mistake. So it's not a small thing. And I'd like to see either the tax collector's office be able to provide some sort of receipt or something for the person who asked to register to vote so that they have some assurance that is being processed. So Lynn, you can help me.
You know what? Ever since you brought this up to me, I looked it up and I looked at the statutes and everything. And it is also a fine if the tax collector doesn't turn it in, just like it would be, we're called third-party administrators, basically, right? To register people. So as a third-party registrar, we have 48 hours to get that in or 5 days to get it in. And if not, there is a fine attached to it. So there is no reason why the tax collector should not, when people come get their driver's license, remember what used to be called the motor voter rule. So you could get it all done in one place, right? You can get your driver's license and get registered to vote in one-stop shopping. If the people do not turn it in that work in the tax collector's office, there are problems there. If they say anything to discourage people, there's a problem there. If they say anything that leads people to say, oh, I'll do it some other, don't worry about that. You don't have to do it now. That there's a problem there. The people who work there, when the employees are really devoted people at the counter when you're getting your driver's license or tag and title or whatever. If we can make sure that the papers are filled out appropriately and it goes zipping right over to you, Deborah, I think that will solve the problem. I don't know now if they just leave it in a dead letter bin and it doesn't get there in time and then the people think they've registered and they have not yet registered. But by law, we in the tax collector's office have got to ship it over to the supervisor's office in a time certain. It's 2 days in one case, it's 5 days another place I saw, but there is a limit on how long you can hang on to these things. And if you don't, there's a fine attached. So I would like to make sure that the people at the counter are following the rules so that nobody is shut out of the right to vote.
Thank you.
You know?
Good,
So,
good.
yep.
Thank
I
you.
have a question from one of our viewers, and Kathy Wallace wants to know, this is really for all three candidates, so I will start this time with Deborah. Let's talk about security issues and the need when you take office. How do you protect against hacking, foreign interference, voting security, random attacks? We see them in the news every day now.
Yeah,
And let's start with Deborah.
so the Supervisor of Elections office has 17 full-time staff, and several of them are IT experts. And so, one of the things that, like, if I worry about something for the future, it's having enough money to pay for the IT people to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to protect against these very serious concerns. So, anyone running for Seminole County, we're all interconnected. The county commissioners decide my budget. Lynn decides how efficient she is and how much budget she returns to county commission, so I can, have what I need. There are a lot of powerful forces trying to make sure that we are protected in cybersecurity. And I will say one more thing, because I've gone to several cybersecurity trainings. Part of the strategy is to sow doubt. So even if we are doing a good job with our cybersecurity, there's tremendous effort out there just to make people doubt that, which in itself is a deterrent to voting. So it's a very complicated issue that's part IT and is part psychology.
Kristina, you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, I just it was just on the news the other day that Leon County, they were doing in the middle of the courthouse, they were Zoom, they were doing it by Zoom, and a hacker started playing porno. So I mean, how embarrassing is that? I mean, that in the middle of the courthouse, a hacker hacks into this Zoom meeting and start playing pornography. I mean, I don't see anything more embarrassing than that. So it's absolutely a need to definitely to upgrade technology, and I hope that doesn't ever happen in Seminole County. I mean, we will prevent to make sure that those things don't happen.
Moira?
I would like to think that in a new administration in the tax collector's office, because I think that the former tax collector had his fingers in all manner of things. He actually was accused of hacking and taking our data in Seminole County and ransoming it back to the county. He was our hacker, right? Along with somebody in the IT department. This was just a couple of months ago, along with some IT whiz kids who worked there, and it was some kind of collusion between Greenberg and somebody in the office. I would only hope that this data, I have so much information in the tax collector's office and the tax collector's data, your house, your, a lot of financial stuff, your driver's license, a lot of information rests with the tax collector's database. And I would hope that this was another huge priority, that we can make sure that that information is locked down and doesn't fall into hands. And I certainly would not imagine that it would fall into, nefarious activity under the umbrella of the tax collector's office. That was shameful. It's been one embarrassment, one stain after another on the office of the tax collector. Maybe people think this is normal operating procedure, but it's not. So I would hope that if we could get back to some kind of sensibility, that this would not be an issue, but security, especially with the database that we're responsible for in the tax collector's office, has got to be a huge priority.
Here's a question for Kristina, but anybody can tackle it, but we'll start with Kristina. How will you reach out to make the clerk's office more inclusive?
Yeah, well, assuming that right now is, the Seminole County government is 100% Republican. I do believe that having, 1/3 Republicans, 1/3 Democrats, and 1/3 no party affiliation, definitely the government should reflect the people that live in it. And, therefore, I definitely believe in equality and give an gender equality and certainly believe in diversity. So, I mean, that would be definitely looked at. I will definitely look at, make sure that everybody has $15 minimum wage, $15 per hour minimum wage, and review salaries and hiring practices to make sure that there is more diversity and it truly reflects the people that live in Seminole County. So,
Deborah, I don't know the makeup of, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, and just one more thing also that, that we have a large Hispanic population, so definitely, I'm planning to translate, to make sure the clerk's website is translated into Spanish to make sure that we don't alienate those citizens that don't speak English really, or, not because they don't want to, it's because they just can't. So, and do to make sure that we have it translated website.
Deborah, I'm not sure what the makeup of the Supervisor of Elections office is. First of all, how many employees and how would you make it more inclusive?
So there's 17 full-time employees, but there are, I think I counted about 700 temporary poll workers surrounding each election. And so, among the 17, of course, I believe in hiring the best person for the position. And if, I would think of inclusivity at the same time. But I think what's more relevant in the short term is the poll workers. And I've always been surprised that Seminole County is not being more proactive in recruiting younger poll workers and poll workers who speak Spanish. And it's a risky situation now, that hasn't been a proactive effort. But going forward, I want when people go to vote that they see Seminole County, just like Kristina was talking about. They see Seminole County there among the poll workers.
Moira?
Yeah, I have over 100 employees under the tax collector's office, spread out over 6 offices around the county in the population cities around Seminole County. There is a good breadth and of diversity, but it could be better. I have also looked into the $15 an hour thing, so that's very important to me, that we have and make sure that we are employing people that reflect who we serve. So that is really important. Deborah tells a really good story about calling the supervisor's office and having to wait a really long time to get the Spanish version of whatever it is. So I don't want to take that away from you, Deborah. Go ahead and tell that story, because I think that has always stuck with me. And I think that that's important for my office as well. But go ahead.
I meant to tell that story. Thank you. Okay, I'll tell the story. So, and Kristina knows the story too. In Seminole County, for the longest time, if you call the phone message system, you had to wait 60 seconds. That's through the intro, through 5 or 6 options in English before you heard in Spanish. For Spanish, dial 5, and then when you dial 5, it would tell you to go look at the website. So we complained and complained and complained. So guess what they did? Now you only have to wait 30 seconds. That's no good. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And the other unfortunate thing is in English, you have the option to request a vote by mail ballot through the phone, through prompts, but you don't have that option in Spanish. And it is like I say, we do the bare minimum. We do the bare minimum. We probably have not broken a law because we have something in there in Spanish, but it's the bare minimum.
I have a question for Kristina. This is from one of our Facebook viewers. It says, for decades, Republican clerk grossly underestimated the amount of excess fees projected to return to the county, which of course, in this person's opinion, means that property taxes have to be raised higher than necessary. How would you handle these fees, these excess fees, and how to determine how much goes back to the county?
Mm.
Well, all of the excess fees should go back to the county. And well, first of all, you got to, that's the way it comes to investing. All the excess fees should be invested, or if they're, if the residents are being overcharged, perhaps, it should be go back to the citizens if we're charging too much. But there is the clerk's office has the responsibility of investing all this money that the county is really not using, and that money is producing a lot of investment income that the county can use to provide services to the citizens. So that's it. I mean, that money has to be invested, but by law has to be invested. But I think it should actually go back to, we're overcharging. I mean, any company that overcharges their customers has to return the money. So somehow, to me, if we are charging too much, it should go back to the citizens.
Moira, it seems to me that the previous office holder was always in dispute with the county as to how much money he was going to turn back to them. How do you, what formula do you use to come up with that number?
You need somebody in there who looks at the price tag, who monitors the money coming in and who monitors the money going out. It's pretty easy. If you do your household budget, you don't spend money you don't have, right? You're not going to buy things that you can't afford. That's how the tax collector's office has not been run up until now, but needs to be run after November. That's by law. After, I don't get my budget from the county commissioners. I get my budget from the Department of Revenue in Tallahassee. So after Joel hopefully has already submitted the budget for next year that I will inherit in January. But at the end of the year, if you run a tight ship and you run a tight budget, by law, every dollar I have at the end of that budget year gets turned over to the county commission to hold our property taxes the same or to enhance services. So, when people ask me, can you reduce my taxes? My answer at first was no, but the answer really is that I can impact your taxes by running a tight budget, so much so that the previous, not the immediate previous tax collector, not Greenberg, but his predecessor was turning over $4 and $5 million. The last year was $7 million at the end of the year in excess money. Greenberg got in there and he didn't turn over 4 cents. I mean, he used every dollar that he had on craziness. So I think that if I get back to a common sense budget, then I will have, by law, the requirement is I don't get to keep that money in the tax collector's kitty. I have to turn it back over to the county and start fresh with the Department of Revenue. So that is, how do I do it? By getting rid of the fat in the budget, by getting rid of all the legal fees that he charged to his budget. It's ridiculous. There are so many things that he has done to pad the budget and take away from the hardworking people in the county that I think that that's one of the very first things that I have got to address so that the county will get this, not windfall, but this check. They can't count on it, but I think that I can make drastic improvements in the amount of money that I have at the end of the year.
We have a viewer who, Jose Garcia, wants to know what organizations are endorsing you for your office. Deborah, do you have any organizations that have endorsed you?
Thank you. I have been working hard on that, and I thought that was a very nice question. And so I would say first, look on my website, deb4elections.com, which is exactly what I did because of I can't remember. So I have posted Action Alliance for Progress, which is a small, actually nonpartisan voting education group. Young SEMDEMS, the young side of the Seminole County Democratic Party, the Democratic Veterans Caucus, and the Seminole Public Education PAC. I have also reached out to quite a a few other groups, and I can't say them because I don't have them official, but I have quite a few more coming.
Kristina?
Yeah, actually, I just received the endorsement from the Democratic Hispanic Caucus of Florida, and Jose Garcia. He's actually the chairman of the endorsement committee. So thank you, Jose,
Jose.
for
This is a
Jose,
shameless
thank you for.
plug.
It's a shameful plug. It's great though.
Shameless plug.
Mhm.
So I just, so that I guess, thank you, Jose. Also have the endorsement of the young Democrats in Seminole County, also the veterans in Democratic Veterans Caucus also endorsed me, and also the Public Education PAC.
Moira, how about you?
Yeah, same, a lot of the same. Seminole Education Association, which is the union, and the Political Action Committee that represents the teachers, bus drivers, paraprofessionals. The Seminole Democratic Veterans Caucus for sure. I have, I also am very proud to announce that the U.S. Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy has just endorsed me for my run for tax collector. I was very proud of that. That just happened yesterday. So I am still, that's like breaking news on our campaign. And I have the letter carriers also. So I'm, we love the post office. So anyway, so those are ones that are at least in, and like Kristina, I have some that are in the pipeline that haven't yet. They want to wait till after the primary to officially endorse. So.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Let's talk about where you see your office 4 years from now if you're elected. If you're running for re-election 4 years from now in the year 2024, Deborah, what would you like to see? What would you like to have as accomplishments by then?
Thank you. One thing I want to say out loud that we haven't said out loud is our world is changing, every week from COVID-19. 4 years from now, the landscape is going to be very different. How we do things is different. In the short term, we are going to have some budget struggles. And so I think I will have to be realistic and very careful how I spend. But what I see is a website that focuses on the voter, that everything that touches the voter is top quality and fully excellent so that people get the information they need so they can vote. My business is to get people to vote. How they vote is their business. And I would like the visibility of the Supervisor of Elections office to be greatly increased in Seminole County because it helps people vote.
Moira, where would you like to be 4 years from now?
To have the most efficient customer service, the most accessible office for people that are afraid to go out now. Maybe a kiosk would be better. Maybe there are other ways instead of going into an office that scares them. We've got to bring back some cost efficiency. So I would hope that 4 years from now, if not way sooner, that we could manage this office within a sensible budget. But for me, I really want to maintain and encourage the staff, because the customer service that you get from the first person that you see when they walk in, whether it's a greeter or the person at the counter, has got to be trained, rewarded, and encouraged. So we need well-trained employees to maintain and encourage them is also a really big priority. I would hope that it wouldn't be when you say, I have to go to DMV, right now people roll their eyes and want to put needles under their fingernails because they have to wait a really long time and they're very afraid of all, that could suck up your entire morning. I want to make sure the wait times are low, it's efficient and cost effective, most importantly.
Yeah. Can I answer now? Sorry.
Yay.
Oh, I think
So
Steve is frozen. Are you
Kristina.
frozen, Steve? Oh, yeah, he looked frozen. Now he's gone.
Okay, I guess I'll answer in the meantime.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, what I want to see in 4 years, I definitely want to see a self-help legal center for all of the residents of Seminole County. I think it's very important to make sure that everybody in Seminole County has equal access to the justice system, regardless of income. And it's important because there is an increased need for guidance and education. And especially, next year, the foreclosures will come in and there's a lot of areas of the courthouse that people will need to understand, and that they're looking for guidance. So I think it'd be very important to have it running, to have it, and also I just want to make sure that we have a complete website, a clerk's office website, completely translated into Spanish. So
That's really good. That's important. Are there questions on this question and answer thing that we haven't touched yet?
yeah.
Yes.
There's somebody, I saw somebody wrote a question about Bitcoins, about what we thought about Bitcoins. And I'm going to tell you, what I feel about Bitcoins. Because it is, the cryptocurrency, Bitcoins, is actually considered a national security threat. So it is, if I'm sure that Moira will do a great job, but even with that, I think I would probably call for an audit of the tax collector's office related to all those expenses that are related to all of the money that all the taxpayer money that he used to create his own company, and to really, and to make people pay with Bitcoins and all of that. So it's pretty much what I'm saying is totally not acceptable to try to run a tax collector's office using another currency that is not the US dollar and that is considered a national security threat is just not acceptable.
Right. There was a Twitter story just yesterday where a lot of people's Twitter accounts, very famous politicians and government officials, were hacked. And what they were trying to do was to get them to do cryptocurrency. And within a 20-minute period before they shut it all down, the hackers got $115,000 or something in just a couple of minutes for people who wanted to do some kind of trade. It was all a scam. And I know that there is a Bitcoin kiosk and a Bitcoin business being run out of that office that is a Greenberg, shenanigans. So I think that we are not at the point now where we're using cryptocurrency for anything. And I'm hoping that, we can get rid of that, because that is a huge controversy. And I think it is a security risk. You're right. I would really welcome an audit of the books of the tax collector's office, because I think it would curl your hair. That's why I have curly hair now, because I have looked over all of these budgets. It's crazy what's going on in that budget. So I would welcome an audit, Kristina. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good question. There is another question in the chat. It asks, what management experience does each candidate have? How many employees are in the clerk's office? Well, since
well, there's around 30 employees. It's the smaller, all of the other offices. It's a small office. It's only 30 employees. So, but we'll certainly consider diversity and inclusion and make sure that everybody's treated equally. And as far as management, what management is needed? Well, what management do I have? I have, I've worked early in my career. I worked in a hotel accounting, and then I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I also been director of finance for a technology company. And currently, I've been, I am the owner of a small business consulting. So I have plenty of experience in managing, businesses. So I 30 employees wouldn't be a big deal to me.
Great. Do you want to explain or me?
That doesn't matter. You can go.
So I have specialized in survey data and mass communication. And so I have been rather not managing large groups of people, but managing a lot of contractors and projects successfully. So I feel like the Supervisor of Elections office is more of a team building thing than I'm managing and, telling people what to do. So that's my answer on my management style.
And in my case, I have managed $1 million budgets for nonprofits mostly. And they have had a lot of employees, and I have been involved in the management of the people more so than the management of the budget. As the president of my synagogue, as I'm on the board of directors of lots of organizations, A Gift for Teaching being one of them. And I know that I have managed $1 million budgets, but I'm also the kind of person who manages my own budget down to the penny. So when you talk about what is needed in that office, so money coming in, money going out, those are the skills that I have. It's a managerial administrative job, according to at least all the tax collectors I've talked to. I've talked to 3 or 4 from around the state of Florida and actually from Georgia as well. And they all say the same thing. If you can manage people, then you'll be a successful tax collector once you get your budget stuff under control.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm reading in the chat that our moderator has had technical difficulties. I swear, a thunderstorm strikes. Well, he's not even in Florida, but he is technically not able to join us. But we've got another great question coming from the chat, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Jose, what changes are you going to bring to your offices? Do you want me to start? Does someone else want to start? I'm going to start.
Okay.
List. And people hate it when I start going down the list, but I want prepaid postage for vote by mail, especially in the COVID-19 environment. And we should be getting some funds for safer voting. And that's the first thing I would do. Early voting at Seminole State College, our early voting hours are the minimum allowed by state law. So that means, speaking of charts, see the red bar? That's Seminole County. That's the number of hours we offer for the primary in August, compared to Orange and Osceola at the top, who have double for their voters. And when we talk about budgets, the Supervisor of Elections office has said for many years, we have the lowest budget of any county around us. And you know what? That is nothing to brag about if you are not providing services to the voter. This is democracy we're talking about. This isn't a game where you see who has the lowest budget. So that has always really bothered me. And then the COVID safety is going to require changes that I think should probably just be permanent. I mean, realistically, the world is not just going to go back to normal for a long time. So those are my priorities about access to voting. And I did just want to mention that better access for Spanish language translations and the website. Right now, I go to other counties and look on their websites when I need to find things about voting. And that's not the way it should be. If we need to spend money somewhere, it ought to be on things that serve the voter.
As far as changes, is it my turn? Tax, are you asking, is the question about what changes would you bring?
Changes, to the office.
Yeah, I think a great idea. Now technology has got to be kept on the cutting edge so that people can pay their taxes online or get their driver's license through gorenew.com or that kind. We have to keep the technology up there so that people can pay. But there are people who don't have computers and don't have broadband internet access. People in low-income areas don't have that. So they have to come into the office. That office has to be safe. It has to be, respectful of their health. And it has to be, there has to be social distance. And I think that the plexiglass stuff, you're right, Deborah, it's here to stay. I think that this is something that it was very hard to get them to go that way at first. They often believed that it was a hoax. It took them a really long time to come around. But now that they're there, I think that is something that has to be forever, at least for the foreseeable future. I think a great idea that I learned from another county is to have kiosks where people can get some of this work done. In the case of Macon, Georgia, they partner with Kroger. and you can go in every hour Kroger is open, because the hours that the tax collector's office is open, if you're a working person, are limited. You have to take time off. If you need to come into that office, you need to take time off of work. But if you can go swing by a grocery store and there's a kiosk there where you can pay your taxes or get services that you would normally have to present in person for, I think that's a great idea. Accessibility is really the key to make sure that people who may not have the very latest technology will still be able to be served in a cost-efficient manner. So there are lots of things that are bubbling up to the surface that we can do to give great customer service. And if they can do it online, fantastic. But if they can't, we want to make sure that if they have to walk in or they have to call up, that they are getting still excellent customer service. That's what's going to be, a big priority. It's got to be a change that we make right away.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to talk to, also recently in the last couple of days, there was, there was a discussion in the news about jury duty and how are they going to come back to the courthouse. So definitely, I think that with COVID-19, that they should really have the option to opt out for health reasons. Either they feel that they don't feel safe for health reasons. So there should definitely be an option to opt out. And yet for those that I'm sure, inside the courthouse to follow CDD guidelines as far as temperature checks, wearing face masks, keeping physical distance, reduce the number of people that go into jury duty, but also, give them the option to opt out. And also for those that want to be there, just pay them at least minimum wage. I think now I think they get like $8-9 per hour or something like that. So I think they should just get $15 minimum wage. I'm saying that for all employees of the courthouse and including the people that are called for jury duty. So I also feel that, yeah, definitely for that we should have salary reviews for equality and diversity, and again, make sure that we have a running self-help legal center, and make sure that we have the website translated into Spanish for Spanish speakers.
Okay, we've lost Steve. His computer crashed. He's trying to get back on, but I have a question about homestead exemption and who decides what the rate is for homestead exemption. Would you change the current rate of homestead exemption? And how does that affect your property taxes?
Yeah, well, I'm not able to, I'm supporting the idea that I think that is the commissioners actually that make the decisions. The decision makers, constitutional officers, we can support, but we don't really vote. So it's actually the commissioners that are the only ones that vote. But I'll definitely will support for us to, Seminole County, there's some cities that have this $75,000 assumption, while others, we only have 50,000. So I think the whole entire county, we should have the assumption should go up to 75,000 so that your tax bill is lower. So so I'll definitely, with support from all the residents and, from all of the us candidates that perhaps we can and hopefully we'll get a commissioner that is a Democrat that will push the issue to increase the homestead assumption.
I'm back.
I see that.
Thank you.
Somebody crashed my computer. I think a moose came out of the woods and did it.
Yeah. Well, we've had fun without you, but glad you're back.
Thank you. There was a question about environmental issues, green issues. I know that the League of Women Voters was asking some of the other candidates about it, what you can do to make your office greener. They mentioned the PACE program, but that may be a whole different thing. But what kinds of things can you do to make your office greener? And let's start with Deborah.
Well, so unfortunately, in terms of saving paper, we vote on paper ballots because paper can't be hacked. So we're going to have to keep our paper ballots for a while. We could consider recycled paper as a possibility. I will say I love the environmental beautiful spaces of Seminole County. And I may be the supervisor of elections, but my heart will always be conserving our natural lands in Seminole County. And I do want to just comment on the idea of, Seminole County government as a whole. There's been a lot of combativeness between the constitutional offices and the county commission. And I'd just like to see a new wave of people and a new kind of attitude where we are a team together working to serve Seminole County, that we're not picking little fights with each other and acting like kindergartners. So in terms of green, I am very excited to hear if the other offices see ways they can be greener than me.
Kristina, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited because until recently, Seminole County, there still people had to actually go physically to the courthouse to get manual records of all their cases. Civil and criminal cases. They actually had to go manually to get these records. So, and I believe the transition has actually just happened recently, that they have finally all the records are now digital. So that's great. So and definitely we're gonna keep going that way. There is less paper and more digital. So that's it. That's digital records.
There you go. How about you, Moira?
Yeah, I think that right now that is the way it is trending. You don't have to come into the office. If you have a computer at home, we talked about this a little bit in your absence. It does trouble me that if we go completely electronic, there are people who don't have access to broadband internet and or computers at home. So it does trouble me. I mean, if we're going to go 100, I don't think it's possible to go 100% electronic, but I think that is indeed the trend, to make it as accessible as possible to those people who must come in, and to make it a smooth or streamlined approach if you have to go in there, so that people don't have to take lots of time off from work and that kind of thing. So yes, the less paper, the better, because then we don't kill all the trees.
Excellent. Making the office more user-friendly. I mean, that's something that you've touched on. All of you have touched on it. What can we do, again, in light of the COVID-19? I think we're learning lessons now how, we're probably going to look for the next year, 2, maybe 3 years. What can we do to help make your offices more user-friendly? And I'll start with Moira.
I think that it's got to be, public safety has to be number one. It was a struggle to get the tax collector on board with this COVID-19 safety measures. Finally, he did safeguard his employees and the customers of the Seminole County Tax Collector's Office by very late to the game, installing plexiglass, still just merely suggesting a mask instead of requiring a mask. I would be in favor of requiring a mask, at least until we have, we're over the hump on this. We have a vaccine, we have some kind of treatment. Because right now, I say it all the time, when I do my couch chat thing, it's stay safe, but that means protect everybody else. So it's really important that you have a mask. And if people don't have them, you need to make sure that, that one is offered to them, the paper masks from Walgreens and or the Purell or whatever. Those are things that are really important. I agree with you, Steve. I don't think we're going to see a different tax collector's office for a long time. It's not going to be open season anymore. We're going to have to be respectful and social distance for the foreseeable future. And I would like to hope that the other constitutional officers, the county commissioners, are not lagging behind the research, the science, the medicine, and the data, because that says that we need to be a part for now, maybe not forever, but it's really important when people have to come into the office that we are respectful of their health and also of the health of the employees who work at the tax collector's office.
Yeah.
How about you, Kristina? What do you think? What can you do to make your office more user-friendly?
Well, yeah, I mean, it has to be, taxpayer focused. And I think we have to eliminate inefficient operations, reduce cost. And I think by providing more of the services online, you just provide more services online rather than in person.
There was a question earlier. I don't know if you addressed it or not, Kristina, and the rest of you as well, was on bilingual forms. Do you intend to have bilingual forms, and will you all have bilingual forms, Kristina?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to start with the website, because right now there is nothing in Spanish. So if you are one of those citizens that don't speak English, you're out of luck because you have no clue of what's going on. So yes, absolutely. Starting with the website, translated into Spanish, and just have forms and more services online in Spanish.
Deborah, how do you make your office more user-friendly?
Well, so as of 2016, Spanish is a designated minority language in Seminole County in terms of elections materials. So that means not only does the ballot have to be in English and Spanish, but all voter education materials need to be equally supplied in English and Spanish. So the phone, we've been talking a lot about people. Not everybody just hops on their computer. Everybody can pay $90 a month to have internet service. That is a luxury. That's not like something everybody can have. So I think the phone service at the Supervisor of Elections office needs to improve in English and in Spanish, and that they need to have staff available to speak to people on the phone. The website needs to be improved. It lacks information, and information that's there is hard to find. And also the voter guide, which is the handout that they provide around the county. It's extremely complex, and I've seen other, it's like a 24-page folded brochure. It's heavy stock. It's expensive to print. I've seen the same information on 2 pieces of paper, front and back. So anything that touches the voter needs to be easy to use and value priced as much as possible.
Someone is asking on Facebook, where can they pick up campaign signs? And I'll start with Moira. Where can you get a campaign?
Mine are ordered, but they're not here yet.
Okay.
So you can't do it yet, but you can pre-order one, so we'll know where you are, and we can make sure that we get them to you. We're trying, obviously, to blanket the county and all the population centers with the signs. So if you want one, go to my website, which is moira2020.com. At the very bottom of the first page, you'll see a place to pre-order your yard sign, and I promise you will get them. They're very spiffy looking, so it will be worth the wait, but they are not here yet.
How about you, Kristina? Where can we get a yard sign?
Yeah, the same thing. They are ordered, but they're not here yet. But you can send me an email, KristinaForSeminole@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that you get one. And you can also go and get more information at my website, www.KristinaForSeminole.com.
Deborah.
Nice. Okay. Well, so behind me, up top is the banner for all the parades that aren't happening, this year. And below it is my large sign. So it's not the little sign, it's the large sign for the side of the roads. I'm so proud because I have 25 of these built, but I have not ordered my small yard signs yet. So I will have a form available on my website, but I'm not there yet. But I do have the big signs built, and I can't wait to put them up.
Yeah, we've all touched on, the COVID-19 and how that's changed the way campaigns are run. Obviously, famously, we've seen Joe Biden in his basement and not really getting out and about. How has it changed? The type of elections you guys are all running in are usually very retail oriented. It's very face-to-face, very handshaking, walking neighborhoods, things like that.
Right.
Can you do that in this environment? Let me start with Deborah.
Not the same way, no. We can't.
Yeah.
I am thinking about standing on the side of the road. At least I'm visible there. I'm the human. But what I really like is, the Zoom format is for people who are who do have access to the computer. It does allow us to reach people in a way that is more accessible than it was before, because you don't have the transportation issues. And if you have mobility challenges, you can interact with the computer. So for myself, I have been making videos. I pride myself in being a one-take wonder. I'm like, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to do it. And I'll put it out there because I want it to be as authentic as if I could have met you in person. And we can't do that now, but I can be authentic and say, all right, well, I'll give you the video. So that's where we're at.
Moira, how's it been for you?
Well, it's been completely turned on its ear. What I expected politics to be like as a first-time candidate was doing exactly what you said, going places, having events, having house parties, gatherings of all sorts. But none of that can happen. After March, everything was shut down. So we all had to morph our campaigns into something else. And whatever that else is what now is the new normal for me. It means much more social media exposure and access. I started, how many days ago now? Probably 113 days ago, I think it is. I started a Facebook Live episode called Couch Chat, literally sitting on my couch and talking to the voters every single day, 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, rain or shine, right? So I am on there. They can ask me things. They can hear about the campaign. They can hear about the virus. They can hear a little trivia, and we're done. It's 30 minutes. It's every day. So that was one way that I thought I could be accessible to the voters of Seminole County. And I do it every day, and it's really fun. I mean, it's a little bit of a talk show or a little bit of a peek into how the campaign is running and what we're doing. And if we have a hurdle to go over, you know, it used to be I could, plan a house party and I could get someone to fund or underwrite the cost of the yard signs, for example. Can't do that now, but I can make the pitch. Or if I need people to write postcards or make phone calls or whatever it is that's currently going on in the campaign, I put it out there on Couch Chat and they come through like gangbusters. So that for me has been the way to go for my everyday daily Facebook Live couch chat thing. So it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's, feeding the beast of social media so that people know that your campaign is out there and chugging along toward November. That's what we have to do now, because there is no, there are still some chambers of commerce that have these hobnobs or whatever they call them, right? These meet and greets or whatever. They had one that was a Zoom one for, that I know Deborah was a part of a couple of weeks ago. But there's one tomorrow in Sanford that's an in-person, in a place one. And I had a big fit because I didn't think it was safe. And all of a sudden tonight, they put out all these different rules now about how they're doing this hobnob thing. So it has completely, some organizations are trying to just forge ahead like the old way. I don't feel safe doing that. So I'm trying to forge a new way for the campaign.
How about you, Kristina? What's it been like?
We all have to be flexible and adjust to the new normal, which is all Zoom meetings. And so I just starting conversations with Kristina on Sundays at 3 p.m. Facebook Live. So I hope you can all join me. We will have a different guest speaker or panelist every week. So I hope everybody will join me. Conversations with Kristina, Facebook Live on Sundays at 3. And but yeah, the challenge has been for people, especially with the Hispanic community. There's still people that are not comfortable with the new normal of Zooming and digital. So it's still a little bit of a challenge to reach them. So I think right now what we're gonna try is to do postcards for all of them. So between postcards and digital, social media, Facebook Live, that's how we're adjusting.
Very good. We have a question. It'll probably be our last question that we can take from members of the audience. And it really, I think, is a question that's probably more properly directed at the county commission, but I'll throw it out there anyway. They want to know about property taxes for people over the age of 70 would you favor a reduction in property taxes for people over 70? And Lynn, let's start with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think now there are some categories of
Right.
people who get reductions now. I know when I fill out my homestead exemption and when I fill out my property tax thing, they ask you if you're over a certain age. I don't know if the cutoff is 70. I can look into it, but I'm just not positive. I know there is indeed a cutoff for a certain point, but I don't know what the rule is in Seminole County.
How about you, Deborah? Do you favor that?
So, I do like to think of the county as a whole. And so property taxes are a source of funding. And with COVID-19, we are going to have some budget issues. So I think we have to be really careful about saying, what we can do about property taxes. Having said that, to me, it would make more sense to target people who are in lower incomes and would have a challenge paying, like older residents, and giving them a break on their property tax rather than across the board.
Kristina, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, it would be to increase the homestead exemption for the seniors. There's already a city out there. There's a city, I believe, the assumption is $75,000. So I think we should extend it to the whole entire county at a minimum to for senior citizens. So by increasing the exemption, their property tax bill will be lower.
Very good. Okay, we're approaching the end of our time here, so it's time for the wrap-up elevator speech. We'll start with Deborah. What is your final pitch for tonight? What do you want these folks to know?
We haven't had two people on the ballot for Supervisor of Elections in Seminole County since 2006. I'm running against someone who was appointed by Governor DeSantis. I have the qualifications to do a job of excellence for the voters. I am not interested in the status quo. I am not interested in playing political games. My business is to help people vote and to make sure their voices are heard. So please remember me in November, but if you wouldn't mind remembering me now and on social media and my Facebook page and helping me run a successful campaign. Thank you.
How about you, Kristina?
So yeah, vote for me, November 2020. You need more information, go to my website, KristinaForSeminole.com. And again, as we are adjusting try to reach the NPAs, the no party affiliation voters, via postcards. We're definitely going to need money for postage. So if you are able to donate for postage, please do. And anyway, I'm joining Conversations with Kristina, Facebook Live on Sundays at 3.
Moira.
Yeah, I know that we have 110 days left. And we are working harder every single day to bring some normalcy back to Seminole County. Seminole County deserves better than what we have been given over the last 3 decades in the tax collector's office. But this is the year that the change is coming. You can feel the winds of change in Seminole County with registrations, with people wanting to vote, get involved, and become active. And that's what prompted me to run. And that's what prompted these other wonderful female Democratic candidates to run. It is an encouraging time to be a voter in Seminole County. And I could not do the campaign that I'm running without all of the help that I get from everyone else. I always say I could never do it alone. Somebody used to say to me, I could get you elected. And I bristled at that when they would say it. I thought, no, you can't get me elected. I could get me elected. But actually, that was wrong too. I can't get me elected. We can get me elected, and we're going to do that, and it's really coming up fast. So we are working hard. If you would like to be part of Team Moira, Moira2020.com is how you get involved. You can donate there, you can volunteer there, and you can pre-order those yard signs that I promise you are spiffy, and they are on the way.
Thank you very much, all three of you. I think Seminole County has some bright days ahead. This has been a great opportunity for all of you to share your ideas and for people to ask questions and to share their thoughts. So we want to thank the Seminole County Democratic Party for hosting us tonight. And again, everybody get out there and support these candidates. Get out there and vote in November for sure. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for
Thank
your work.
you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Steve.
Night.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Okay, bye.